I dreamed the road kept going after the map ended. Just gravel turning into black water. You were walking ahead, but every time I called your name, the sound bent wrong came back as someone else's voice asking, why are you still missing? I dreamed the road kept going after the map ended. Just gravel turning into black water. You were walking ahead, but every time I called your name, the sound bent wrong came back as someone else's voice asking, why are you still missing?
Well, good afternoon, everyone, on this fine Saturday afternoon. And the sun is absolutely brilliant and gorgeous on this fine Texas Gulf Coast day. Today is June the 27th, 2026. And thank you so much for waiting on me, because I did what I always do. I started my StreamYard and I didn't stop to think it's going to send out alerts to everybody. And I'm not yet done because I didn't have my thumbnail ready, but it's ready now. And so we are going to jump into this. Welcome, Anarchy, Mrs. Magoo, Criminal Sociology. Doris Martin, I timed it just for you, my friend. Team Doocy Doo, 222, Just Me. You were the winner today, Just Me. You were here, Johnny, on the spot. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry that you had to wait. So you know what we're going to do, right? We're going to do the 4-hour reaction video. It's a 4-hour reaction video. We are not going to do the entire 4 hours because, frankly, it's a beautiful Saturday and I don't want to ruin my mood. You know what I mean? So we're going to play a section of the 4 hours, and we'll just do that every day until we get through the whole 4 hours. I would imagine we're going to run about an hour and 15 minutes today is kind of my guess. And so we will do that. Now let me get the video up and running. I hope everybody is doing well. Did you enjoy the Sam Bateman coverage? I didn't either. I watched it as a reaction video. Watched bits and parts of it with Everyday with Jay. I just can't. You know what I mean? It's people are weary of the exploitation of children that have been abused or neglected or the worst imaginable, have lost their lives to insane parents or other criminally insane people. And I don't know how many times you can cover it without it just beginning to just deplete your soul. You know what I mean? It's awful, no matter what. So I do try to protect my own mental health. I avoid those stories as much as I can. I also don't want to draw a parallel to like what I do in the real world and what I do on my YouTube channel. I don't want the two to intersect or cross over. So, I stay away from it. And I had stayed away from the trial of Richard Allen. I don't mean that I was completely ignorant of what was going on, but I wasn't locked in minute by minute, hour by hour. I just wasn't doing that. And then I had somebody come into my channel and say, have you seen John Mathias's analysis of Richard Allen? And I said, no, because I protected my mental health by staying away from a lot of the details. And they said, I wish you would. And so I did criminal sociology. So thank you. So I'm going to start this video. Basically, like I said, it runs 4 hours. I'll probably stop and interject like some thoughts and whatnot. If you guys start talking in the side chat and I see a discussion, a topic come up, I may interrupt. But I think we've reached a point, just me. I think we've reached a point where we no longer need to listen to John Mathias's analysis of these criminal element, because he always brings it back to the same recipe. Who else can I blame? And is there a way that we can interject sex into this? And it is exhausting for me, and I assume for other people it is also very uncomfortable. The exploitation happening with Lauren Mathias and Zelda, not Zelda, I'm sorry, honey. I was reading your name. God forbid, you're nothing like Trisha. I just looked at your name and my brain, did what it does. But the coverage of the Sam Bateman trial, where you have Lauren Mathias and you've got web sleuths jumping online for what reason? Because they want to get video and photos with one of the abused children. One of the young girls who, in my opinion, seems to have been the most targeted and manipulated of all the young girls. Lauren couldn't wait to get a photograph with her. Lauren had to get her on video. We got to take this young lady who was 100% a child victim, and we've got to now latch on. I mean, it at some point, Lauren, you and John need to have a sit down and try to really think about expanding your horizons. And I get it. Children who have been abused are ripe for the picking. What was it that Molly Golightly said? They are the cash cow. We get that, Lauren. But how greedy do you have to be? Your channel is doing fine. You're raking in millions. Couldn't we give the little ones a break? Couldn't we give victims of child abuse, couldn't we give them back their privacy? Why did you have to bring that young lady on your video? Is awful. It's truly, in my opinion, is awful. Okay, now we're going to get to the Richard Allen deal, and I am going to be quiet now. There's nobody in the side chat because I did not want to get sidetracked. So I will record these and then run them as premieres when they're ready. This topic will end up being a series of videos because there's just, frankly, just way too much information to try to get it all in one video. So I'm going to be doing a hidden true crime reaction. Okay, I want to go past this and get my video. It won't do it. Basically, I'm looking, but criminal psychologist doesn't work. I get what you're doing here. He has been called down by the board for using
In my
inappropriate
opinion.
nomenclature to
My
try
opinion.
and parlay his license into an income. I don't think he's done that. I think you are taking liberties with his credentials and his education, which is a real shame. I don't think you should do that. But criminal psychologist, no, I don't think he has broken the law.
When you call your husband a criminal psychologist,
but I don't think I have no knowledge of that.
You're saying he's a criminal who has broken. He's a psychologist who has broken the law.
John analyzes Richard Allen of the Delphi case or of the murders of Abby and Libby. How about just calling him what he is? He's a psychologist. You don't have to like make it fancy, Lauren. There's a ton of psychologists online. A lot of us, a whole bunch of us. Gary Bricado, that's, if you agree that it would be sufficient to simply say, my husband, the psychologist, is going to analyze Richard Allen, the man convicted of the murders of Abby and Libby. If you think that would be sufficient and appropriate, put a 1. If you think that Lauren should continue to take liberties with the word psychologist and all of the like emotionally insightful terms that she can think of to pair with the word psychologist, put a 2. And I did it today just to make my point. This video is called Kicking Ass and Taking Names. But do I need to do that? Or can I just say reaction video to Richard Allen's analysis by John Mathias? He's a real psychologist. He's an impressive psychologist. So stop trying to dress it up. Did you study for 7 years and earn a PhD? Did you conceive of, and then develop and then carry out an independent research project that you later analyzed your data and wrote a book about your work and had it published and then presented it to the university? Did you do that? Oh no, it was John that did that, right? Okay, so he should know the nomenclature. He should know how he is to be properly identified according to his licensing. When you get licensed, they tell you how you can market yourself, what your official titles are. And criminal psychologist, it's not it. And for that matter, forensic psychologist is not it either. It's not a official label. What your husband is, he is a licensed psychologist. He's not even a licensed clinical psychologist. He's a licensed psychologist who is specializing in forensic work. That's how you do it. Or you can say he's a licensed psychologist who is specializing in clinical work. Or he's a psychologist who is an associate professor. But you don't get to just make up words because you like how it sounds and you think it makes your channel more marketable. He is exactly what Gary Bricado is. He's exactly what I am. That is, he's a licensed psychologist. Finito. You don't need any more than that. Okay. So I'm doing this analysis, criminal psychologist take on Delphi case, Richard Allen's arrest, trial, and theories. I'm gonna kind of go through that. And look, this wasn't my interest. I didn't have.
I'm gonna go forward
doing this.
Y'all already heard.
And I kept getting people that would say, "What do you think?"
To go forward.
They critique each other's publications and research, and they talk about the weaknesses. They talk about the interesting results, how to expand on the research, things like that. So this isn't bullying. It's something that John Mathias is familiar with, and he shouldn't like shrink in horror that somebody is listening to what he's saying and critiquing it, right? All right. So let me pull the video up. That is so funny. Criminal. And I'm going to share it with you. And I'm going to share. There we go. Now we're getting started. Yes, I'm still here. Okay, sorry. I had to double check and make sure I didn't hit the wrong button. All right, so here we go. We're going to get started now. John's back in his library.
If that's okay, and explore what that would mean and what that would mean this crime was, what the motive might be, and your thoughts. But I also see that you have a lot prepared. I have no idea what John has prepared tonight.
Let's start with,
yes, go ahead.
Yeah, well, there's so much to cover, so I'm just going to jump in. So let's start with.
I couldn't. Let me say this real quick before we get started. I couldn't help but notice as I was going through this, couple of hours long video, Lauren seems particularly quiet. Yeah. And hesitant. Distracted, maybe, perhaps.
She looked a little depressed.
Maybe she's sick. Maybe she has a headache. Maybe she's sad that she's missing some.
Oh, come on, video.
Let's talk about motive. And this is something that hasn't been covered. There's been a lot of speculation. But now
he's kind of suggesting he himself shall not engage in speculation, right? So everybody rest well that we're going to get some very responsible reporting and critique from the real journalist who was on real TV and the preeminent criminal psychologist. And I gotta apologize. Oh my God. Let me just apologize front and center. I gotta do this.
Yes, cinnamon hot.
Lest I be misunderstood.
Kind of crazy.
I'm sorry for what I'm about to say. Okay. I'm sorry. Some of you may feel I'm being a bit snarky.
Just get ready, anarchy.
Some of you may feel I'm being mean. I'm not doing either, okay? I'm explaining to you the assault that this video is on my rational, logical, wise mind, okay? So that's all I'm just going to point out what.
Hey, Big T,
where I think he took liberties or was just flat out wrong. Okay, and I'll explain my position.
Okay, then get on with
for those of you that just love Dr. Mathias, I just can't bring myself to say Dr. John. It's just so ridiculous. I can't even say Dr. Gary.
Come on,
because
get on it.
It's Mercado, and he has damn well earned that respectful title, right? So, y'all can call me Dr. Jules if you want to, but I wish you wouldn't. I'm just Jules. And John is just John.
Yeah.
When you're a criminal,
yes,
psychologist,
correct,
on YouTube,
correct.
All right.
Thank you so much.
I told you I was going to be an itsy teensy weensy bit snarky,
but it wasn't bad. It wasn't over the top.
Here we go.
Let me start with statistics. Let's start with, so this comes from homicide data. from
Love
Britain.
statistics.
And some of this is from a very well-known study on homicide, probably one of the best-known studies. It's the reason why I'm using data from the UK is because they tend to keep statistics about homicides much more meticulously.
Oh my God. Oh my God. John, I have no idea what you just said. Thank you, Anna. My guess is you used the UK data because it was the first thing that popped up on your search. That's just my guess. You could reach out to Dr. Bricado or others online and say, where can I find like FBI statistics on crime in the US? It's there. And it has a lot more application to what you're about to discuss than studying UK crime, which is the dramatically different population or sample. It's dramatically different than the United States. But you go on with your bad self, John. Can we get back to Brad Pitt?
Than we do in the US, but it's still a representative sample.
No, it's not. How?
In terms of
how
who commits homicides and why. And so let's start with that.
You think getting your sample, getting your statistics from the UK, you don't even mention if they're talking about crime in London or if they're talking about crime out in the countryside, British Isles, out in the country, out in Stonehenge, in Scotland. You don't even say where it's from. But this is a representative sample. How's it a representative sample, John? If it is UK crimes, UK victims, UK perpetrators in somewhere in the UK, and we're going to take that sample, we're going to take that information gleaned from that sample, and we're going to extrapolate it onto the U.S. population? Oh, please. Good Lord. Can we get back to Brad Pitt?
This is from a textbook called Understanding Homicide by a second edition, Fiona Brockman. It's a kind of a classic textbook in this area. So Brockman talks about filicide, and she talks about the most child killings occur within a family-based context. But here's what she says about what she calls stranger killings of children. In other words, killings where a stranger commits the murder.
We know what it means.
It's not based in the family. So a lot of children are killed by parents, step-parents, people that know the children, right? She says, quote, "The killing of children by men with whom they have no connection is one that causes particular alarm and fear. Stranger homicides differ in significant way from child homicides that occur within the family. Of the 23 cases of male-perpetrated stranger child murders, 6 victims were killed during a terrorist attack, 5 were killed during a fight or brawl, 4 were killed during an arson attack, and 3 of the homicides were sexually motivated."
This was his representative sample for the murders of Abby and Libby. Yeah. It's hard to get past this, guys. This is so basically flawed. So he's
clearly
6 classes of stranger killings of children. Guess which one he's going to focus on? Just take a guess.
The public perhaps fears most in terms of child murder, i.e. the abduction and sexual assault and murder of a child by a stranger, is very rare. So what does this mean? If you look at the statistics on child homicides and you rule out family-based killings, which is the vast majority of children are killed within family contexts. If you look at stranger homicides, number one, they're extremely rare. But when they do occur, the categories they fall into are terrorist attacks. That didn't happen here. Fights or brawls didn't happen here. Arson attacks, not here. And more rarely, sexually motivated homicides. So when you look at the statistics, that leaves you with one category, and that's sexually motivated.
I told y'all that's what he
So
was
what
gonna
is the
choose.
motivation here? The evidence and the statistics, the research would suggest that this is sexually motivated. So when you rule, and not only that, we know, of course, that the victims were found, one of the victims was naked. They were both naked for some period of time, and then one of the victims wore the clothing of the other victim, but we know they were naked. So if you know what the research says, which is, number one, these are very rare. Child homicides are rare, especially with strangers. But when they do occur, if you eliminate all the categories, you're left with one. In other words, I guess you could argue. You could argue. It would be hard to argue this, I think, but you could argue that a stranger, let's not say it's Richard Allen, anybody, a stranger just decided for random reason to go murder children on a particular day.
Yeah, like someone insane, delusional, right? Schizophrenic. They might randomly commit a murder without sexual intentions. Correct? That's a possibility. But can we get back to Brad Pitt? Actually, I don't want to talk about Brad Pitt. I want to talk about the representative sample that John Mathias has used as the premise for his entire analysis of Richard Allen's crimes. Okay? The homicide victimization rate for children in the US is statistically significantly higher than in the UK. It's not a little bit higher. It's not just an anomaly. It is approximately, depending on what year that you're using, it is 3 to 5 times higher in the US than in the UK. And this is good data. This is comparing FBI data to Scotland Yard. Okay? Not rude at all, honey. So let me repeat myself, because he has already taken the hidden potatoes and misled them. Should we say lied? I don't know, because I don't know if he knows that what he's saying is false. You would never get this analysis published anywhere. Your editorial board would kick it out and go, did you double check your facts? Like, do you even have any idea of which you're speaking? If you are going to use as the premise for your article statistics that would say a child who is murdered by a stranger is more than likely a sexual assault, right? What's the yardstick? What are you comparing it to? Oh, we're going to compare it to U.S. murders, right? Abby and Libby, American children. But then you go over and you use the statistics from a completely different country. And then you make a pronouncement as if you are King John. Well, I mean, you're using the UK's statistics. You might as well use their fancy labels. In the US, you're criminal psychologist, you're forensic psychologist, you're clinical psychologist, you're licensed forensic psychologist. Lauren is giving you all kinds of fancy labels that they're not real, but hell, that doesn't stop her. Just like it didn't stop you from going and getting a non-representative sample to extrapolate onto the murders of Abby and Libby. And then you're going to go on and you're going to talk about a man Richard Allen and just make up shit. You just made it up. No, if you go and you use the statistics probably from the book that you happen to have on your own bookshelf. That's probably the reason why you used a UK sample, because you were too lazy to go to the FBI website and get a report from whatever year you decide you want to use, preferably, John, within the last 3 years. You said, well, I don't need to go get accurate statistics. I don't need to use a representative sample. I got this book right here that I used back in 1994 when I was getting my bachelor's degree. I'll just use this book. And it's UK statistics on UK murders of UK children. It is not a representative sample. And the reason you can't use it as a representative sample is because in the United States, the homicide victimization rate for children is 3 to 5 times higher in the US than it is in the UK. That is based on the most recent official government data. Let me break this down pretty fast so we don't. In the United States, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, CDC National Vital Statistics, and other studies that are using these two databases, children aged 11 and younger face a homicide rate of 1.28 per 100,000, or essentially 620 victims per 100,000 children. If we use a broader sample, which we will have to, because Abby and Libby were not 11 or younger, they were 12 to 17. The broader child population rate is 2.2 per 100,000, John. Think of that. That's a 27% increase over what you even suggested. So the overall homicide rates are in the thousands compared to what you're trying to do in the UK, which was in the low hundreds, right? So with teens included, 2 to 2.8 kids per 100,000 dying of sexual assault. It's roughly not sexual assault, stranger victimization, homicide, is 5 times higher than in the US. 5 times. So in the US, if we see, let's say, 2,500 child homicide victims, John, in the US, 2,500 or more children killed by homicide in the US. Guess how many that is in England and Wales? 60. You are lying to the hidden potatoes. You're saying, hey guys, this is a good representative sample. I'm going to use the statistics out of this book, UK Murders of Children, to talk about what it was that Richard Allen did. You're saying that a country that's got 60 kids dead in a year, that's a representative sample for the US, where we are looking at more than 2,500 in a year. I don't know what school you went to, but that is strategically not a representative sample, and your editors would have thrown it out and said, do better. Go check the statistics before you start using it in your argument. It's BS. All right, so that is critique number one. I don't know why you chose that book. I don't know why you called it a representative sample. But you're going to go on to convict a guy. You're going to go on to manipulate approximately 300,000 subscribers. You're going to go on and manipulate them with information that has nothing to do with the price tags in China.
Goes out for a walk on the Monon High Bridge Trail, sees a couple of kids, just decides to murder them because it would be somehow, maybe it's a total psychopath. Maybe there's a certain sadistic pleasure. I don't know. That never happens.
Now we're getting that old theme with John, right? He loves this whole sexual sadism. He loves the death of children. Like, they love this stuff. It is a rare occurrence for them to dig deep into a case where there's no child victims. They want that. And if John is going to get involved with a deep analysis, 9 times out of 10, we're going to bring the lewd and obscene into the argument.
What happens is typically that person, whoever it is, goes out for a hike on the Monon High Bridge Trail, sees a couple of children, has a sexual attraction or fantasies about children.
Oh, okay. Now we have Richard Allen sexually attracted to Abby and Libby. That is very strange, isn't it? For example, was there evidence that was presented that said they found reason to believe that he was sexually excited by Abby and Libby, or that he was sexually excited by assaulting a stranger, a young teenager? Was that information presented? At the beginning of this video that I'm critiquing, John says, to sort of start the whole thing off, oh, I'm so interested in the Greek mythology and the Disney parallels, or no, maybe he didn't say Disney. I think he said fairy tales. The Greek literature and the fairy tale parallels to the murders of Abby and Libby. And I said, what is he talking about? In fact, I believe I looked at my husband and said, what is he talking about? And my husband said, why are you listening to him? And that was the end of our conversation. And, you know, once I got into it, it was about this point right here in the video where I said, oh, there it is. Good old dependable pedophilia. Right, John? Good old dependable pedophilia. You have a gift to reduce any crime down to the most obscene and macabre, I guess. He compares it to Oedipus Rex, which is, what is that? Oedipus of the King, I think, something like that. All because the name of the town is Delphi, right? It's the place in Greek mythology where people would go and get their questions answered by the oracle, something prophetic, some prophecy of doom. And I'm like, John, these girls were real human beings. Why are you adding a layer of Greek mythology, or worse, dark fairy tales? Not Disney fairy tales, but Hans Christian Andersen type of fairy tales. Why are you doing that? Is that what you do as a forensic psychologist? You just draw these weird parallels to to fictional tales? How does that help anybody? But that is, in fact, what he says at the beginning. And I invite all of you to go back and watch the video on hidden true crime and develop your own ideas, okay? But let me do a pretty quick bulleted rundown of the evidence that was presented by the prosecution against Richard Allen. So we can see, oh, maybe there was evidence that showed Richard Allen was a pedophile. Maybe he was involved with that creepy son and dad who had CSAM on their computers. Maybe that was part of this whole thing, right? So I go back and I say, okay, let me go through this evidence. And look, I got a list. I wrote it down. What they say was the key piece of evidence was, of course, the Liberty German's phone down the hill.
You're exactly right.
The
Big
recording
T.
was digitally
That's exactly
enhanced.
correct.
They played
Yes.
it for the jury. They made a voice comparison analysis using Richard Allen's recorded prison phone calls. And they said, look, isn't that him? You want to know one of the problems with that? Here's one of the problems. My brother will call me and I'll have to say, wait a minute, is this my son or my brother? Because you can't tell the difference between their voices. DNA is powerful, and they just have this weird thing where they have the same exact voice. Kind of like Willie Nelson and his son, exact same voice. Even though Willie Nelson's voice is so unique, he had one of his sons sounds exactly like him. Well, in my family, it turned out to be between my little brother and my son, and I'm mom. And yet when my brother calls me, I have to go, wait a minute, who is this? Okay. So that's one of the problems. Here's another problem. I was able to match up down the hill to a recording of Barry Morphew's voice, and most people can't tell it apart. Sounds like the same dude. Weird, right? So I think we need to be a little careful about saying we're going to sentence someone to life in prison because we're listening to a bad recording and saying, oh, that's definitely Richard Allen, definitely him. But they did. I mean, they're very open that this is their top piece of evidence is the recording, right? Now then, there's also, look, you can't make this up. It's crazy. The second piece of evidence, an unspent 40 caliber bullet. Unspent meaning it was not fired. It was unfired. It was ejected from the gun. There's a pin tap on the end, but it wasn't fired. They don't have ballistics. John, you kept talking about ballistics on this bullet. They didn't do ballistics because the damn bullet wasn't fired. It's a mark on the tip of the soft metal of the bullet. Pretty easy to fake, actually. So they found an unfired 40 caliber Smith & Wesson Winchester cartridge on the ground, magically right in between where Abby and Libby's two bodies would have been located. The bullet was found after they had already collected the bodies. Now, Melissa Oberg, who was an examiner by Indiana State Police, she said that the tool marks, the pin mark on the cartridge, showed that it had been cycled through, meaning it was loaded, but then it was ejected by A, not V, by A 6-hour P226 40 caliber Smith & Wesson handgun. And then John goes on and says, Not that a 6-hour P226 was recovered from the Allen home. That's not what he said. He said the bullet was an exact match to the 6-hour P226 40 caliber Smith & Wesson handgun. It was an exact match. No. Do you know anything about guns? Do you fire guns? Do you shoot guns? Do you buy ammunition? Do you know anything about it at all? But maybe Melissa Oberg could explain it to you, John. It's a little dot. It's a little pin mark on the end of the bullet, the back of the bullet. You can say, if you are a psychologist, care about the precision of your words, what you would say was that the pin mark is consistent with what you see on ammunition in a 6-hour P226 that's been cycled. Consistent with, not it's an exact match. You need ballistics for that. You need that bullet to travel down the barrel of that gun, and there's little imperfections on the inside of the barrel of the gun, and it literally scrapes the bullet. So you get the housing of the bullet, and you then the examiner fires a new bullet through whatever gun you've confiscated, and then you look to see if the imperfections, if the scratches are similar or the same. Then you can say this bullet came out of this gun, but a bullet, unspent bullet that was loaded and then ejected, it cannot be determined that it came out of that. It can't. It's not science, John. You're spouting fantasy, but you warned us that it was fantasy, didn't you? You said you would be talking about Greek mythology and fairy tales today. There was a 2017 tip that was made by Richard Allen himself. 3 days after the murders, Allen reached out and said, hey, I was at the bridge the day Abby and Libby died. I was there. When I was on the trail, I passed 3 girls. He reached out. He wasn't told, hey, you got to come in for questioning. We've got people that saw you there. You've been reported to have been there. No. Richard Allen called and said, I was on the trails the day Abby and Libby died. Here's where I was, and this is what I saw. Does that sound like a guy hiding from the police? I'm sorry. Look, maybe that's how they do it in the UK, but it doesn't sound like any criminals I've run across in the United States. They generally keep their mouth shut. They're looking for an alibi. Oh, not this criminal. No. Not this criminal. Not only does this criminal not have an alibi, his alibi is I was on the trails looking at fish. But he reaches out to the police and says, hey, I see where y'all are trying to get information. I was there. Here's what I saw. 3 girls in this location on the trails, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't until 2022, which is very interesting, isn't it? It wasn't until 2022, reviewing the tips, that some brilliant genius said, oh, wait, we have another witness here that we haven't even thought about. And why did it fall through the cracks? Why did his 2017 report that he was on the trails, why did it fall through the cracks? Here, interesting, because his name was filed as Richard Allen and the street name where he lives. So they didn't even think the guy's name was Richard Allen. They thought it was Richard A. and then the name of the street it was on. And they made it out to be that this was ominous, that he was hiding, that he was making up, aliases, or maybe he called in and he left a tip that on a recording, he said, "My name's Richard Allen and I live at blah, 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 blah." And the transcriptionist screwed it up. And then there were multiple eyewitnesses testified in the trial. They saw a man on the Monon High Bridge or near the Monon High Bridge and various trail locations that matched the description and the clothing of Bridge Guy. And there were a couple of people that said they saw a guy who was muddy. They said, "We saw a guy who was muddy." And John changes that around as well. And then finally, this is my favorite part. 61 confessions from Richard Allen, but only after he had been in solitary confinement for more than a year. And with a prison psychologist who was besties with Gray Hughes. You know Gray, the man who believes that he owns the Delphi story. That if you are a true crime creator and you try to make a video about Delphi, he comes into your channel and disrupts it. He accuses you of lying. He calls you stupid and dumb. And he befriended the family of Liberty German. He befriended the family of Liberty German to the tune of buying thousands of dollars worth of equipment for Libby's sister. What? Good God. This is your psychologist? Now, let me stop the video here. What do you guys think is going to happen when the appeals board finds out that the only psychologist to get up on the witness stand to say, "Oh, he confessed 61 times, blah, blah, blah. He was psychotic, potentially from the isolation of being, in solitary for more than a year." We're going to overlook all of that. The woman who took the grand majority of these so-called very specific acknowledgments, I did it, and I attacked my daughter, and I attacked my sister, that she was, in fact, hanging out with Mr. Delphi himself online. The man that will screech and scream if you suggest that the girls did not, in fact, walk down the hill and up the side of the river and across and up the hill. If you even suggest such a thing to Gray Hughes, he turns into a little crybaby. He does. He did it in my channel with everybody watching. He's done it to countless other channels. This man believed that he owned this case. There was not even a pretend attempt to say, "Oh, Richard Allen, let's try to be fair and present the evidence from both sides. Not even an attempt. It was, he's guilty. And what an idiot you are because you don't believe it. He's guilty. You're an idiot if you think it could have happened any other way than what I put on my videos. But we have a guy out on Mona and High Bridge flying his drone who basically proves that the killer was about 6 feet tall. That's right. The man with the drone is, I think he said he's 6'2", and he puts himself exactly at the railroad tie, exactly where the blue jacket guy is, and it is clear that he is not 5'2" tall like Gray Hughes proclaimed for years. Now, I want to be very clear, Nancy Drew. I don't have a position on the guilt or the innocence of Richard Allen. What I have a position on is that this analysis went so far off the rails that there's no way in hell that he would have ever gotten his position published in a peer-reviewed journal. Never. There's so much wrong with it. My position is it's a little hard to believe that Richard Allen did it. And after doing a lot of research into Odinism, I always felt like Odinism might actually have been a better explanation for what happened to the girls, but I don't know. I don't know. Those sketches, both of them, when you merge them together, they are like a photograph of Barry Morphew. Does that mean I think Barry Morphew is Bridge Guy? No, that is not what it means. It means people, eyewitnesses, are notorious for being wrong. The way that our brain works, the way that it stores knowledge and recalls memory, it is very difficult for an eyewitness to get it right in terms of like drawing the face. Would you be able to draw the face of a family member that died 10 years ago, 5 years ago? Probably not. The way that our brain works, it's really, really hard for us to see those images after a certain period of time. So I'm not making I don't, the jury found Richard Allen guilty, period. That's where it stands until he goes through all of his appeals. And I honor that. But I don't honor what it was that John Mathias said in this analysis. There's too much wrong with it. Factually incorrect even. So that's what the video is about, Nancy Drew. Your psychologist is hanging out in Gray Hughes' channel. Gray Hughes is making public statements of guilt against Richard Allen. By the way, Gray, it turned out, didn't it, that the little guy on the bridge, he wasn't like 5'2" tall, was he? No, he's more than 6 feet tall. You kind of got that estimate wrong, but let's still pay any attention to that. We got to make sure all this evidence sticks together. I love that criminal sociology. The psychologist is your friend?
Can we
Hanging
put
out
criminal psychology's
creeps
channel
no, I'm sorry, the
in the
freaks
chat, please?
every night in Gray Hughes' channel, listening to the never-ending, non-stop diatribe against how he's the only one who ever learned anything about the killings of Abby and Libby, she was like your insider. She was your source. And if that wasn't enough, you befriended the family of Libby and crawled up into their lives in the most obscene fashion. There's other things. They found a box cutter in Richard Allen's house. Guess what? We have probably 5 box cutters at my house. You ought to see the knives we have in our kitchen.
Thank you, hybrid.
But magically, that too gets finagled into an explanation by the good doctor. There's literally no DNA, not a speck of fingerprints anywhere, either at the crime scene or with Richard Allen himself, where the victims and Richard Allen were put together. There's no connection to Allen at the crime scene at all. There was no sexual assault. Aha, there it is. That's what we're looking for. So in this analysis that we're watching with Hidden True Crime, he's starting the premise off using a non-representative sample to get his statistics to make his statement from the UK. He then immediately transitions into Richard Allen's pedophile. There's no sign of sexual assault.
In this case, young teenage females, and takes action to fulfill those fantasies, making it a sexual type homicide. The statistics are consistent with that. As far as I know, there's almost no cases of stranger child homicide where the killer does it just for sadistic pleasure.
Oh my God.
So if you're looking for motivation, the first motivation, based on the research and based on what we know of these types of crimes, has to be sexual. And if you...
There you go. Unbelievable.
King John has spoken. It has to be a sexual assault based on faulty statistics, misapplication of a non-representative sample, and the belief that one of the girls not having her clothes on translates into sexual assault, even though there was no DNA and there was no sign of assault, sexual assault. Kind of crazy, isn't it? You just make this proclamation, John. And aren't you supposed to be responsible in the things that you say? If you're making money off your channel based on your credentials, your background and history, shouldn't you speak with the same precision as well as hesitation that you might in a testing report? This may indicate, this could address.
So if you're looking for motivation, the first motivation, based on the research and based on what we know of these types of crimes, has to be sexual. And if you look at...
I don't hear any hesitation here. I only hear arrogance based on complete fiction.
At the crime scene and the fact that these victims were both naked and not wearing clothing, at least for a portion of the time they were there, that would be consistent with sexual motivations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's the problem, John. Okay. So we hear on the recording down the hill, what's the first thing that Abby and Libby would have encountered as they went down the hill from where they were standing at the very end of the Monon High Bridge? What's the first thing they would have encountered? Oh, a road. Wow, that's interesting, isn't it? Why is a road interesting? Because roads are where cars are at. True? Now then, so maybe there was a car involved, a truck, right? Maybe. You heard the stepfather himself say, I'm talking about Mike Patty, he said himself that night when they were out on the trails and they were looking for these girls, he said on camera, we pinged Libby's phone. It's pinging all over town, quote unquote. Her phone is pinging all over town. Well, according to the great and fabulous Gray Hughes, they went down the hill, up the river, across the sandbar, grabbed a tree and went up the hill and traveled about halfway up to the damn cemetery before he did the dirty deed. And by the way, it was February. The trees didn't have any leaves on them. Anybody could have seen what they were doing. Boy, that's where I would take my victim if I was about to commit a double homicide or a double rape and then homicide. What? So why is one of them naked? Well, how about this fantasy, John? They go down the hill where there is a truck or a car waiting on them. The friends of perhaps a family member who's deep in the drug use trade. Maybe these men are pissed off at the father of Liberty. And they get into the truck or car and they do exactly what Mike Patty said that happened. They're driving Libby all over town. What are we going to do with them? And then maybe someone, because we do have some DNA, but we don't know who it belongs to. We can't find whose DNA it is. And interestingly enough, Abby has got hair in her hand. It's the hair of Kelsey, Gray Hughes's young 20-something-year-old friend that he bought thousands of dollars worth of equipment so she could start a YouTube channel. So you got unknown DNA and you got the hair of Kelsey, and that's all you got. But you do have Libby's phone pinging all over town in the early morning hours. So someone does the dirty deed. Someone assaults these girls. Maybe they were drinking and partying and being wild. Maybe not. Maybe it was an assault. But I don't know. It's a fantasy. I'm trying to explain how this doesn't have to be what you claim and proclaim that it is. So they're driving all over town. There may be some boyfriend, girlfriend, kind of flirty happening. Something goes down. Someone accidentally passes away, or worse. They carry them back to where the cemetery is because it is a very short, very easy walk from the cemetery down to exactly where the bodies were found. Exactly where they were found. And maybe Abby lived longer than Libby. And it was cold that night, And maybe Abby took the clothes to try to stay warm. And nobody's ever explained why the damn sheriff's department sent everyone home in the middle of the night. There was opportunity to bring those girls back. There was opportunity to set the stage. And there were circumstances where perhaps Abby was just trying to survive the night because nobody else was left out on the trails after the sheriff sent everyone home. And then they didn't start searching again until like, what, wasn't it like 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning? There is a more logical explanation than this fantasy of a 5'2" guy just deciding on the spur of the moment, I'm going to get him. Never committed a crime before, never committed an assault, never committed a murder, but he really believes that he's going to be able to handle two scared athletes. And I don't know if you're paying attention or not, John, but old Richard Allen wasn't in good shape. Now, if that had been Barry Morphew out there on the trail, if that had been Barry Morphew that tried to take control of these two girls, I would have said all day long he would have been able to handle it. No doubt. He'd have been able to grab each one of them by an ear and drag them anywhere he wanted to go. But Richard Allen? Abby could have been gone like a flash, and there's no way Richard Allen would have ever caught her. But you and Gray Hughes want everybody to believe that this non-criminal pharmacy worker who had an anxiety problem, that he goes out into the broad daylight in an openly public place where there is literally nowhere to conceal his criminal activities, and he's going to pull a gun and say, go down the hill, go up the river, cross over the sandbar, grab that tree and pull yourself up off of that 3.5-foot bank. You ever tried to do that, John? I have. It isn't easy, even for somebody in really good shape. And yet he seemed to have no trouble. Then they made their way, stumbling and fighting, not running. The two girls are not screaming and yelling for help, even though the trails are filled with people. Middle of the afternoon, Dad's already out there looking for them. He would have heard them. And then they get out there and the guy's like, okay, I have no cover. Anyone can see me, as I can no longer keep my urge for pedophilic rape intact. But if they catch me, they catch me. I just can't fight the urge. Oh, wait a minute. Let me take all the bullets out of my damn gun. Stop. This is so absurd. And yet you say it like it's an absolute certainty, completely based on false or faulty information.
So there you go.
There
So,
you go.
so evidence aside, just what research says about this type of crime.
Right. But and we don't know exactly what has been said in these confessions, but of the 60 plus confessions, we don't have the exact number. It's been estimated that there's roughly 61, give or take, confessions.
61, the grand majority were said during confidential meetings with Gray Hughes's friendly psychologist. Boy, nothing wrong with that, is there, Dr. Bricado? It's so ridiculous.
From
No,
Richard Allen. From Richard Allen while in custody after his arrest. Just to
Right.
explain.
Of the confessions that Richard Allen has made, we know that at least some of those have references to sexual motivations. So again, that's consistent with the research we know about these types of crimes.
It is not consistent with your stupid book.
It's consistent with the fact that you had a crime scene with two naked bodies for a certain period of time, and it's consistent with some of the statements or confessions he has already made. So if you're looking for
John, they did not find two naked bodies. They found a body that was wearing the clothing of both girls. And the other girl, who had been dead longer, had no clothes on. Maybe Abby was freezing.
motive, the probability is that these were sexually motivated crimes.
Yeah. Someone is saying they heard there was no evidence of SA, but that, I mean, just the fact that no, there absolutely is.
I mean, why in the hell do we want to listen to the state police investigators? That would just be so silly when we have John and Lauren available to proclaim that they were sexually motivated murders. It doesn't matter what the state police said, does it? I don't know about you guys, but here's what I heard. I heard when there's sexual assault, there's a whole lot of DNA. Hair, skin cells, other stuff. Right, Trisha, of What's Loose? Spit and Spooge, Othram Laboratories. But these two have just said, we're not going to listen to state police examiners. No. Don't you listen to them. In order for John to be able to tell his tale to the hidden potato crowd, we need to be dealing with sexual assault because that's what he likes. That's his topic of choice. Sexual assault on children.
Bodies for a certain period of time, and it's consistent with some of the statements or confessions he has already made. So if you're looking for motive, the probability is that these were sexually motivated crimes.
Yeah. Someone is saying they heard there was no evidence of SA, but that, I mean, just the fact that no, there absolutely is.
You know what, Lauren? If I had died last night when I was getting ready to like soak in my beautiful, wonderful, luxurious spa tub, if I just fallen over and died of a heart attack right before I stepped into my gorgeous tub, they could have said, oh, she's found naked as a jaybird. Must have been a sexual assault. No. Nope. She just was ready to get into that hot tub and relax. No, just because someone is found without clothes, it doesn't mean that there was a ghost who was sexually assaulting them, leaving no DNA. That is not what it means. As stated, one potential thing, perhaps, maybe Abby was alive. Maybe she was trying to survive. Maybe she got cold and she took her friend's clothes, who was clearly passed away. She was not left sprawled out, laid out. She was leaned up against a tree as if she had been sitting there just waiting for someone to find her. As compared to the condition that Libby was in. They had two completely different experiences. One of them had almost no blood on them. The other one was surrounded by it. You guys don't get to just make up fantasies in your head about the destruction of two little girls and then use that to bastardize the little bit of evidence that they got and say, aha, it's solved. Richard Allen did it in the library with the rope. You don't get to do that crap. They didn't do it in the trial. They said Monica Wallow was not an acceptable witness because of her activity online on Gray Hughes's channel and others talking about how damn guilty Richard Allen was. I wouldn't be caught dead talking about anyone that I was working with. Anybody. She is literally in the belly of the beast in Gray Hughes's channel. So you ignore the reports of the state police examiners, the detectives, you ignore them, but you open your arms and you embrace the damn clown Monica. Oh my God.
Been undressed. That alone is evidence.
No,
of an essay.
it's not.
But you're not even there yet. But I just had to, sorry, got distracted by the chat.
The great
that alone is
Uncle
evidence.
John. Look,
but anyway, go ahead. We're not even talking about evidence yet. You're just
Lori
talking about
Hill
research.
just
Maybe there's a confusion there about essay versus assault.
Oh, are we confused, John?
Right,
Because we're just so
but we'll
stupid
get
and
into that
small.
Yeah, the R word. We'll get rid of yeah.
We'll get into the
We're going to use the R word because we're small children. We're going to use the R word because we're just too tender to manage through the word rape. We're perfectly okay to talk about two little girls being brutalized and left out in the middle of the woods and demanding that the motive was rape. We're okay making that proclamation. That's okay. We just don't want to use that little word. That little 4-letter word is a little upsetting for some people, John. I don't think we should talk about the R word. Well, that's really funny, Lauren, because your preeminent criminal husband here, psychologist, he read police reports of a minor girl who was sexually assaulted by one of these monsters. He read it right out online on your channel with every gory detail. A little girl, a minor, and you spread those details that should have never, ever, ever been released to you. Kind of like that phone call with the Murdoch attorney, Lauren. You shouldn't have had that either, should you? You made Fox News on that one, girlfriend.
By the way, you're a little bit blurry.
Oh,
is it your
gosh.
camera? Could you like?
Oh, yeah. But could we look? We'll get back to Abby and Libby in a minute. Let's talk about the important things. John, so blurry. How appropriate was that? Then she has the very professional realization. After all, she is a journalist. She's been on real TV, okay? Not pretend TV, real TV. She then realizes, oh, wait a minute, you're fine. The camera is focusing in on your $600, $700 microphone. So that's okay. You guys are just, y'all shouldn't be talking. It's my opinion. You guys should not be talking about these cases where children are concerned because you have zero self-awareness. You just make it. It's these kids shouldn't be talked about anyway on a YouTube channel, much less the details of their brutalization. It just shouldn't be happening. But what? There's not enough grown-ass women being emmed. Why not do some reporting on adult women that are killed, John? Couldn't we talk about that?
Maybe put your camera up. I mean, I don't know. It might be that your camera.
I need a break. I'm
doing
actually
the 4, 7, 8
breathing to relax
technique.
because I got so triggered. Okay. Now I found my happy place. Okay. This, you guys, is why I don't watch them. Okay. This is why I don't watch them. There's too much. There is too much that is wrong, either morally or ethically wrong, or just factually and logically wrong. It's just too much wrong. I find myself in this running editorial, just, it's just not good. This is not good. Okay, guys, I have a question. We are at about an hour and a half. Would you like to end this now? And then tomorrow I can come back and do the next part? Or do y'all want to keep going? Because it's getting a little bit long, right? Oh, criminal sociology was yelling at your dad. It's so hard to take. It is very difficult. Yeah. What do y'all want? Y'all want to watch a little more, or you want to take a break and then we can come back tomorrow? It doesn't make any difference to me because I'm not, if I had been talking for an hour and a half, I might want to take a break, but I haven't talked much, right? So, okay. So that's what we'll do. Everybody's kind of like, why don't we take a break? Because it is long. And the total video is 4 hours. So once you get over in about an hour and a half, it gets really hard to stay interested for a long time. How's that, John Mathias? Right? Yeah, maybe we need to. Horsewoman says we need to make it a drinking game. Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, so I thought the blurriness, the microphone, it's just rude. It's you're talking about two young people who were literally slaughtered, and you're worried that John's camera is not, zeroing in on his finest features. It just was not. Inappropriate, Lauren. Said it before, said it again. Why is it 4 hours, Rachel? It wasn't supposed to be 4 hours. Trust me. It is that I got so deep into it that it just, the terrible behavior was incredible. I was actually taken back by the liberties that John took. We're actually about to get into the worst part, the most egregious part of the video. Okay. So this really is a good time to end this, take a break, and then come back. We'll come back and do another hour and a half tomorrow. But yeah, he behaves in a way that is just really, really unethical. See, criminal sociology and anarchy, they've both seen this. It is terrible what he does, isn't it? Yeah, he totally just changes topics, but he does it in a way that it misleads people. So they think he's still talking about murdered children, and that's not what he's talking about at all. So it's pretty bad. Okay. So thank you guys for being here. Y'all are wonderful. Oh yeah, Rachel, I couldn't believe how bad it was. I couldn't believe how bad it was. So 4 hours long to react. And then I knew there's no way I can just air this 4 hours straight running. And so I wanted to divide it up. And I will, when we get to the end of the original video, I will post the long 4 hour video. So if you want to download it and break it up like you want to or whatever, then that'd be your business. Okay. So, so I hope that you will hit subscribe. I don't have a regular upload schedule. So if you hit subscribe, you'll get a notification that I have put up a new video. And please hit the thumbs up, or if you didn't like this breakdown or you didn't agree with it, you can hit a thumbs down. That's all right. And I'd be really interested in seeing, like, if you want to leave some comments down under the video, I would love to read it. Just arrived, pity, but we'll watch on replay. I'm sorry, Carmel. I'm sorry. I wish you had gotten here earlier, or I had been later. Okay. So please subscribe. You'll get notification that I put something new. Hit the thumbs up or thumbs down. Leave a comment under the video. And I will do another hour and a half tomorrow. Okie dokie. I hope you do, Anarchy. I hope you do. This was egregious. Absolutely. There's so much in this analysis of Richard Allen that is unethical, maybe immoral. It's intentionally misleading. I believe that in my heart. I also think that he took liberty in terms of just knowing that what he was doing was wrong and choosing to ignore it because he had a story to tell. He did worse than fishing for data, didn't he? He totally took the data and created total fiction from it. Look at the Taylor Parker analysis. Ugh, Elizabeth, I know it's awful. Okay, so I hope that you guys will share this on your YouTube channels or your social media or TikTok or X or whatever you use. And I'm going to see you guys tomorrow, okay? And I guess we'll leave with everybody's favorite song. See you guys later.
Oh, Lauren, Lauren, queen of the screen. With Botox so tight, you look like a dream. But your skin's so thin, it's like tissue paper. One wrong word and poof, you're a vapor. Hey, Lauren, Lauren, toes all sore and red. From folks stepping on them, now you're crying in bed. People are mean, you wail through the night. But you swing at victims' kin, what a sight. From YouTube throne, Queen Lauren's so grand. Now cast to the peasants with pitchforks in hand. You dish out the drama, true crime with flair. But cross your highness, oh beware. Family members grieving, you pounce like a cat. Claws out and hissing, imagine that. Botox can't hide that frown upside down. Your kingdom's crumbling, you're losing your crown. Hey, Lauren, Lauren, toes all sore and red. From folks stepping on them, now you're crying in bed. People are mean, you wail through the night. But you swing at victims' kin, what a sight. From YouTube throne, Queen Lauren's so grand. Now cast to the peasants with pitchforks in hand. Once upon a vid, you ruled the true crime wave. Subs in the millions, oh what a rave. But thin skin and sore toes led to your fall. Now you're scrolling comments, ignored by all. Peasant life calls with no royal decree. Just Botox bills and reality TV. Hey, Lauren, Lauren, pack up your crown. The kingdom's evicting, you're heading downtown. Toes still aching, tears on your sheets. But hey, next adventure, true crime on the street. From queen to the fields with the mud and the muck. Lauren, oh Lauren, next time, better luck. Apologize, Lauren, to victims of our